I was asked why I didn't talk about the one who runs the site, COL, Mika. She's the one that creates a controversy and stirs problems for no good reason. And the answer is because women are being dealt a very hard, unfairly, being dealt unfairly by tradition. So you can't blame it on Crown Heights or Borough Park. You know, the more educated and the more modern the woman is, the more she's already determining something more important than what's going on in the community anyway. So that's the as the TV show Shababnikim, the boy asks the girl, a Haredi girl, why are you studying? Because she was studying and she knew how to learn. And she said, because all my friends who have good heads go into science and medicine. That may be true, but there are a lot of women who know how to learn. So attacking a woman in a community that people are not the brightest in terms of understanding what's going on could lead to people further putting down women, which is very okay. But to go into this character, she works in graphics. She got a regular chinuch in Beis Rivka, I think. And you could revisit what it was like in Beis Rivka, the type of chinuch that they had there in the 90s. She got married and then she started gaining weight, and she likes policemen. You know, she takes pictures with these guys, men in uniform. That's her Yetzer Hara. So she's a policeman, but she landed in Yiddishkeit. Rabbi, so people read the news. She works in graphics just like Joel Osteen worked in television. He's a very big mega church guy, very wealthy. His ugly face came out during the Houston floods and what was going on, how he didn't help. But his main smarts, his income wasn't that he was a good theologian of some sort. He would talk about God like a bubbeh, you know. But he would get people because of his background in television. So she was doing graphics, and with the graphics, she made a site, and people don't have time to be picky. There's a book in the library, How to Read the News, and it explains to people, and your average guy, you get a lot from it, about how to read news, how to understand, and stuff like that. But to point it out, So this is what I heard, and without believing it or not, but without taking sides or believing it, I can tell you what I heard. That 4 days, exactly 4 days after, nobody had a problem with it. It's a private event. So Rabbi Heller wrote a book in the 90s, a small book, pocket size, called Shalom Yiyeh. And he writes in the book that the Satan is miraked. It's for people who believe in mysticism, because Satan is not a real thing. What we know is what we know. A real character. There's a real problem. A very uneducated girl that works in graphics that stirred up controversy for no reason. And this wouldn't fly in any Chabad house. Shluchim are ashamed of such characters. One shliach told Emmanuel Storfer, who's now I think like a ram in a yeshiva somewhere in Florida, he said when he was becoming frum, he came from NYU, and the shliach said, don't look at Crown Heights. He pointed out 770 something. He said it's like Washington D.C. The real America is not the people in Washington, and he meant like, you know, the people who live in the D.C. area. It's a lot of black areas. He was probably like referring on, you know, but he was, you know, old school guy, but he meant that 770, he was referring to these people who do not understand that some people do not share your faith, and they're very good, upstanding people. And the hardest part of her jealousy and envy that cannot be cured is when she finds out that the people she's trying to demonize are better people than her, and they forgive her. They understand her and forgive her, and all she's left with when someone asks her, what do you do for a living? Like, what do you do? What's your hobbies? What do you do for the world? The Rebbe spoke about acts of goodness and kindness being the last thing for Mashiach, you know, something that people can understand. So she'll have to change the subject. But the fact is, what she does is she stirs up controversy for a living. It's not that she did it in a hot moment or a moment of, anger. Everybody has that bad moment. This is what she does maliciously. She sits down and does that. So here's the thing. The smart people doesn't move them. They see it immediately. They see the writing, the way she was writing about it. They see it's just a smear and there's no evidence, and it's someone that's really not happy. The naive people don't know, so they boycott Boof and Bun, which is not even the restaurant. So the damage that she did, to people, and the damage she does to the community when people don't want to be frum, and the pain it causes to the parents, it's not her concern. I want you to understand this. No matter how much you're confused and you don't understand, you have to remember that any damage that she does is not her concern, even if it's a suicide. And it's been a lot of that trouble comes from the fear. People are afraid. There's one guy who was watching her very well, and he's going to arrange a new social media platform without Lashon Hara and without all the farkakta graphics that she has, because it's pashut ugly, and people want to have, it's farkakta. Advertisements from farkakta drinks. It's a farkakta little business, and it's running bad reporting, and she blocks out the comments. And he said that she writes every 15 minutes. She writes a comment to stir things up, and he said he doesn't want to be, which means there's real people that are afraid, and then there's the people that don't care one way or the other, because they're not community people. They have a party, they do what they like, and it's always private by them. So there's always a solution to every thing, but it's good that you're doing it as a community, and you're taking being honest and showing that you're good people, and these people have nothing. They have very low morals. And they would not chase down people who are not frum or people in a Chabad house, because they're jealous only because they could have gone. They could have lived a better life, and they didn't. And everybody deals with jealousy, and some people say, wow, I could have done. And then there's the people destructive. Rabbi Lustig, it's funny, the guy who was talking about this site, Rabbi Lustig was an Erlich Yid. He just the mistake that he made needs to be discussed. He may have not known better. During the World War II, a lot of good Germans also didn't help Jews, because the leader, the Führer, had a spell over people, and it was hard for people to question and things like that. But what happens here is that the guy who's looking at the site and explained to me how it works and how they fool people, which is also unfortunate, another thing in the mix. The comments, how she controls it, and how she puts in every time slot, she puts in her own comment and tries to stir up controversy for no reason. It's a family. It's Chassidim ein mishpacha. So families grow together with the problems that they have, but she's demonizing and trying to tear it apart rather than make it grow together. So he says to me, she posts lustig, but she can't. But she something like that, and I don't have anything against lustig. So I'm not involved, and I'm dealing with the future, But it's funny, he said lustig. So Rabbi Lustig told us a very nice story when we were in learning in a class how to write. So he said that there's a certain midah. If you can't have a piece of cake, and your mother says, okay, but you can't have it, but Chani could have it or something. So, if I can't have that piece of cake, I don't want my sister to have it either. And Rabbi Lustig finishes off and says, Und das ist a sehr schlechte midah. It's a very bad midah, an ugly character trait, because you can't have something, you want the other person not to have it. It has nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. I already finished that. Tznius is something that came from the Chazal at a time when that was the norm. Just like racism and putting women down came from Chazal, because that was the norm. It was a patriarchal society in the Middle East. Islam and Christianity were a lot worse. If you want to have something to be proud of, Chazal were not debating whether women had souls. The Christians were. So they looking, we weren't that bad. But in terms of this is the history. So the tznius comes from Chazal, but I don't know what they were teaching there in the school in Besrifka in the 90s, but definitely the Divrei Me'Yisrael they didn't get. Basic morals and they didn't get. And then she grows into she's going to be a bubby. Her daughter gets married, and when I read the article and I saw the names, I thought, like, maybe I don't want to say the word shocked, but it was unbelievable. It's like, really? Like, you're just doing this? Once you do the damage, the Lashon Hara, all the stories with the Chafetz Chaim and the damage it does to Lubavitch from the frum world and from the secular. Back in the day, something happened that stayed in the community. Today it's on the internet. So the people in Lakewood who hate use it against Chabad. And the people in secular people look and they say, wow, that's just not a healthy community to raise someone in. And if they have a son or daughter that decides to go to school in Crown Heights, and they say, wow, they're concerned. And here's another key point. She's not a girl that really did shlichus and knows what it's like to be on shlichus to learn from it. That there's a world out there, that Judaism is vast. And you have many different Baal Teshuvos that come to Crown Heights. Some came from good societies and there's a scientist that he left his son to be a Lubavitcher shliach, and he ended up leaving his son with no chinuch. He didn't give his son something to live by. So he believed in a bunch of nonsense. I asked him, what did your father leave you? His father was a famous scientist and a Lubavitcher, the very few that we could have. And he didn't leave him anything special. But then there's people who came, they were looking for a cult. So they decided the Hindu cults weren't their thing. So they found Judaism and they became policemen. So what happened? Their whole Yiddishkeit is about damaging other people in the name of what? Of tznius. Like the church used to go chase people down, the Inquisition, to see if they're keeping Shabbos in their house. What is it to you if they keep Shabbos at home and they're hiding? They accepted the faith, they became Christians, they didn't protest. And now, at home, Friday night, they light candles and say, Yom HaShishi. What's the problem? It's that seichel, but you have it in Judaism. You took these people who probably are mixed bloods from the Inquisition, and you placed them in Crown Heights to do. So instead of holding the Holy Cross, they're holding a Magen David, and they're making an Inquisition, and they're chasing you Me'ever Layom because they feel like they own you. So of course you can't blame them. This is the best chinuch they had. They didn't get the true yadus, the points of Chazal, Divrei Me'Yisrael, and they didn't get morality about what it means to live in a society where there's no religious persecution, and they didn't get shlichus. A normal, if they would spend time on shlichus. So and this is the key point. These are people that they don't care. It's not like they say, wait a minute, is the damage worth it? It's jealousy, it's anger, it's destructive. And they don't care, wait a minute, what's the damage that's going to come from it to Chabad, to people who work hard, to the local community, to people raising their kids. Everybody has a right even to make a mistake, let alone this is something that's completely rational and completely acceptable. So they're like, okay, we'll do the damage, but they're not concerned in the slightest about what it does. It's not their issue. They don't care. The pain. They're going to close the window when they see a tragedy happens. It's a whole fear mongering. It's another point that someone pointed out was this group psychology or something, where someone who can be the stupidest person saying the stupidest thing can get a lot of people to believe something very quickly, and that's exactly the nature of what happened. It got people hyped up, and the damage went more than just one restaurant, which was completely not even responsible for it. But the point here is that the person doing it is of the lowest character. It's a person that from graphics went into controlling people with propaganda. And propaganda, if you read about it, it's amazing the way the Nazis would do propaganda. If you read about it, it gives you a feel of empathy towards what it means to hurt people, character assassination. It wasn't like, look, these people are doing it differently and maybe they're going to change their mind. It was, let's assassinate them, let's hurt them, their businesses. And what that does, it just divides it. And then what are these people left with? These are not people that have good vartitis. They don't have good character. The whole Messiah of Yiddishkeit about hurting someone else, the Tzemach Tzedek said, the whole Chassidus, if you hurt people and you have no empathy, what is it worth? So these are people that really never had it. And they just became policemen. And as life went on, they had like their jealousy, their emotional issues, and because they write, they broadcast it on people. It's ugly. Shame on you. You're very cruel. All you have to do is ask the person, why are you so cruel? People just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to get their hands dirty. The Alter Rebbe says, "I'm misavik and menuvel misnavel," so they don't want to get involved. They don't want to get they don't want the trouble. Nobody wants the headache, and then the issue goes. It goes on, and you have to just confront it. You can't live in fear. I tried it. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. There's nothing. Don't be afraid of an article. They'll write this guy eats chazit on Instagram. You pick up your putts. You go eat. You're doing a favor that is. People will thank you for generations. When you put an end to something, people thank you for generations. You don't have to live in fear and you have to get a new news outlet that doesn't have Lashon Hara and doesn't have Fakakta advertising, where people can go and it could be respectable for Lubavitch, so people can look at the news, what's going on, and instead of this garbage. Imagine the Chilul Lubavitch. Imagine how shluchim are just cringing, like hoping nobody reads it. It's ridiculous. Oh wow, we got so big.
Yeah, I know.
Thing used to be a tiny little baby, that dog. Thank you for watching.